I think we just kind of struggle as entrepreneurs that tend to have a lot on our plate to make time for this sort of depth of relationship. Or it could be that we are surrounded by people, but we are in misaligned rooms that are maybe focused only on growth instead of rooms that are focused really on personal alignment. We may have people in our lives that are like, yeah, go, build, scale, but that is not the same as people who know you, know your marriage, know your children, know your family, know your hopes and dreams and skills, and know what God has called you to, who can say, I mean, is bigger really the best situation for you? We live in a world with an abundance of advice, but a real shortage of true personal advisors. And we are making expensive business mistakes as a result of that. 2 weeks ago now, I was in Colorado and I got to spend some time with 3 entrepreneur friends who are all in a Loom network, all happen to be out in Colorado. And all of these women have built wildly successful businesses into the multi-millions. And late one night in the hotel room with one of them, we were talking about how hard it is to find good hires, team members that turn out to be as good as we hope that they'll be, right? Just typical CEO grumblings. But we were commenting on the fact that we have both probably invested and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. We've both been entrepreneurs for a while in programs, agencies we've hired, consultants we've hired, coaches, and just team member hires that in many cases didn't end up being able to deliver what they claimed they would be able to deliver, right? And the reality is, it was a kind of conversation where you're just kind of laughing to keep from crying over how overwhelmingly frustrating and challenging it and expensive building a business can be. But what we know to be true is that the bigger the business, the more expensive the mistakes become, right? You don't reach a point where you stop making mistakes or stop having business setbacks. I think that we think that there does come a point when it gets easier, but I think the reality is, at least what I've seen over 20 years of entrepreneurship in myself and in others, is that the bigger the business, the bigger the mistakes just are, the bigger the setbacks get, right? The more expensive they are. They don't go away, the challenges and the setbacks, they just get more costly. So Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, they haven't figured out a way to avoid failures and mistakes in business. Their mistakes are just bigger. They're more costly. They're more expensive. There's more at risk, which is why there's a very seemingly small piece of wisdom from King Solomon that we're going to look at today that I think can have such a nuclear-sized impact on our businesses. And that is from Proverbs 15:22. Which says, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Proverbs 11:14 echoes pretty much the same idea. It says, where no counsel is, people fail. But in the multitude of counselors is safety. So let's look at this strategy today. I'm really excited about this. I think when we hear the term advisors or counsel, in this modern age, we sort of downshift that to advice, right? With lots of advice, plans succeed. And we do accumulate advice, don't we? Through podcasts, through books, through social media, through gurus that we like, that we follow. But the original word used here for counselor actually means more like a familiar friend, someone who has a close, intimate knowledge of you, of your circumstances, of your family, your unique gifts, your business, your bigger picture, hopes and dreams, and the context of your life. That word is closer to describing the counsel that comes from talking really intimately with God, right? Who fully and completely knows you, or talking to a close confidant, like in close deliberation together. What you and I both know is that advice abounds. You can find advice anywhere you look. People love to tell you what you should do, right? Scroll Instagram for 10 seconds and you will see it. Do this. Stop doing this. Buy this. This is the way, right? We are drowning in advice like never before. Information is abundant like never before, right? Especially now in the age of AI and ChatGPT and Claude. But we still have so little deep, trusted, personal counsel, both in life and in business. Who is it that you consult when you're making major business decisions? Who do you have in your life that is full of wisdom, that you trust implicitly, who you know will be honest with you, right? I mean, that's a big one right there. Who will be ruthlessly honest with you? Who do you have that knows the greater context of your life, who will tell you when something is a bad idea or that the timing just doesn't really seem right? Or that your strategy is weak sauce. Who do you have in your life that's going to tell you about that? What about somebody willing to pray with you through a decision? What about somebody, we talked episodes and episodes ago about the abiding lifestyle and how to hear God's voice. Do you have anyone who you know walks closely with the Lord who's willing to ask God with you and listen alongside you for an answer to a particular decision that you're making? So here in our passage, we see King Solomon, the most, materialistically successful king in all of history, who's prescribing having a group of people who are intimately familiar with you and what you're doing, who function as advisors. They know God's call on your life, and they're willing to come in and intimately deliberate your business plans and decisions with you. So you could almost think of this as like a board of advisors or a board of counselors in your life. So without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors or counselors, they succeed. Where no counsel is, people fail. But in the multitude of counselors is safety. It's interesting. It's saying not even just one person, right? Not just one trusted confidant that you go to and you kind of brainstorm things with, but a multitude of familiar advisors, So why don't we have people in our lives like this? It's interesting. If you're listening to this, I would just want you to self-assess. Do I have people like this? Do I have people in my life like this that are related to life, right? And do I have people like this related to business? Who are those people for me? And if you're kind of assessing this, obviously in the context of this podcast, we're talking about entrepreneurship and business, so we'll kind of zero in there, but the same thing applies both in life and in business. Why don't we let people into our lives in this way? Why don't we have people in our lives like this? And we're going to talk about a number of reasons, but I think the first reason is that we just haven't intentionally identified those people and asked them to serve in this role. Right? We just haven't formalized it, right? We haven't had a DTR where we've said, like, would you be willing to play this role for me? I want to give you two examples of this that I think are personally fantastic. One, I might have talked about it on this podcast before, but I have a friend, Elise, who's also a business owner. She's also in a Loom network, and her and I, I don't even know how long we've been doing this now. Definitely over a year, maybe a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. We've had what we call a friendtorship, where once a month we have a 90-minute standing call. It's the last Thursday of every month. We split the time in half, and we use that time to mentor each other. We are in different seasons of life with some overlap, and we have different skill sets, but we both have so much respect and admiration for each other that there's a lot that we can learn from each other. And so we'll bring any topic to the table, and you have your 45 minutes to explain where you're at and what you're thinking and get feedback, and we help each other think through life and business. I think it's been such an incredible blessing in my life to have that. So that's one example of what a board of advisors, now that's just one person, but what that kind of board of advisors relationship can look like. Another one that I've seen was I've told you guys a few times that I lead a local women's business leader group. I've been leading that for the last 3 years. And there's a group of women in that group who very early on became friends. And I would notice that our meetings would end Wednesday, and I would see them out on the lawn. There was 3 or 4 of them at the time, just lingering, and they had notebooks out. And it turns out they had kind of formed a bit of a board of advisors for themselves, where I don't know if they did it every week or if they did it once a month, but they would go around and they would literally just each bring a topic to the table, business related, that needed feedback, and they would get the feedback from the other women at the table. And it was like 3 or 4 of them. And they had kind of, because this was something that we were teaching, this idea of having a personal board of advisors, they really put that into practice, and they were literally helping each other to make and navigate business decisions. It was really beautiful to watch, and they're still friends to this day. So I think to a certain extent, we may have people adjacent to us who could maybe fill that kind of role, but we just haven't intentionally identified them as such, and we haven't actually asked them to serve this role and like formalized that a little bit. So that's my encouragement to you, is to do that. I think the second reason that we don't have people like this in our lives and in our businesses is that we're just moving too quickly in business. And I feel this. We just don't want to slow down long enough to get feedback from someone, right? We are moving very quickly. I work 2 days a week, 16 hours a week. I don't want to wait a day to hear somebody's feedback on something. I'm going, right? By tomorrow, I won't be working. I won't be at my desk tomorrow. So I need the decision today. I think we have to really develop that kind of wisdom and discernment and skill of being able to wait long enough to get wise counsel, to get feedback on important decisions, right? I think we prefer to move very quickly, right? Idea, execute. We don't want to slow down long enough to get feedback. I think that's the second reason. I also think that pridefully, if we're being honest, we just don't want anybody to disagree with us, to question or disagree with us, or to tell us that an idea is not a good one. And I think the more mature we get, the more wise we get, the more we recognize that feedback, and even sometimes especially negative feedback or criticism or questioning, is probably one of the most beautiful safeguards we could possibly have in our lives, because it does protect us. It does lead us to bigger ideas, to better ways of executing. But I think especially when our identity is a little caught up in work, or when we're kind of newer in it and we feel like we're trying to prove ourselves. I mean, gosh, do we ever grow out of trying to prove ourselves? I think we're always trying to prove that I have what it takes, right? And I'm worthy of this business. I'm worthy of being trusted. So I think that can almost covertly lead us to just pridefully not want anyone to question or disagree with us. So we don't reach out for feedback on those ideas, because we don't want to be embarrassed that maybe it's not a good idea, that maybe it's not as good of a marketing plan as we thought. Maybe it's not the right timing, right? I think that's a big one. I don't know, if you're like me, you get an idea and you want to go with it. You have a lot of like effervescent energy around something, like you're sure that this is a good idea. And I just don't think we want to be told that it might not be the right timing or it might not be a good idea. So I think there is a pride component that we have to acknowledge, just so that we can decide to move on from that, right? Like, it's just not worth it. At the end of the day, we want to succeed, right? We want to grow successful businesses. So pride can't be what holds us back from getting feedback. And then I think another reason why we don't have this is that we just struggle as entrepreneurs to cultivate and make time for this kind of depth of relationship. It takes time and sacrifice and intentionality to cultivate these types of relationships. And we have trained ourselves, unfortunately, through platforms like Instagram and short form content and all of this, to just have very little tolerance for something that takes a long time, right? Like we 2x books, we 2x messages from people. We just have kind of grown a little bit impatient with how long it can take to form this type of relationship and what it takes to really invest in and grow and cultivate that. I feel like I'm in a season where I am so incredibly surrounded by amazing friends. I feel so supported, so encouraged. I feel like I have people that I can call to talk about life, to talk about business, who will give me honest feedback. I feel like I have people that deeply know me. I feel like I have people who are in my corner, encouraging me and cheering me along. And I feel like I have people who will challenge me and question me if they see me getting off track or, moving away from alignment with what they know that I want and I know that I want. I don't know that I've ever in my life felt that I had as rich of relationships as I feel like I have right now. And a lot of that has to do with Illume and some of the women I've met in entrepreneurial spaces and entrepreneurial rooms. And now I've kind of collected them and brought them together inside of Illume. But it takes time, right? It takes text messages and voice messages and willingness to travel so that you can meet up in person. And it takes keeping a consistent time on your calendar, right? Elise and I keeping that call every single month. We really try to guard that, and we try not to cancel at all costs. Like it's on the calendar unless it absolutely something has to go there. But 90 minutes, man, that's a lot to sacrifice, right? That's a 90-minute call. That's a lot to sacrifice. Or we look at it as such, but really it's an enormous deposit in our lives and in that relationship. So, I think we just kind of struggle as entrepreneurs that tend to have a lot on our plate to make time for this sort of depth of relationship. Or it could be that we are surrounded by people, but we are in misaligned rooms that are maybe focused only on growth instead of rooms that are focused really on personal alignment. So we may have people in our lives that are like, yeah, go, build, scale. But that is not the same as people who know you, know your marriage, know your children, know your family, know your hopes and dreams and skills, and know what God has called you to, who can say, I mean, is bigger really the best situation for you? Is bigger what you want right now? I was on a Voxer message with a coach of mine the other day, and I was talking about the tension that I feel around, the desire to quickly scale Illume, and she was just reminding me that I'm in this really, she's mirroring back to me what she's heard me say, which is that I am in a season where I have my kids in the house my youngest will be in the house for 4 more years. My oldest will go off to college, or she'll go off to whatever she decides to do a year from now, right? She's in her senior year of high school. I can take over the world 4 years from now, Lord willing, right? The most important thing in my life right now is enjoying these girls and shepherding their hearts and preparing them for adulthood and cultivating them as young women. Like, I can do the business stuff anytime, but I cannot do that anytime. That has an expiration date, right? The entrepreneurial stuff does not have an expiration date. The parenting children in my home has an expiration date. And so she's just mirroring back to me. Like, she's not like, don't build. She's not like, Shay, don't do what you love. I mean, obviously I'm doing it. I'm building Illume. I'm able to do both, but she is a voice of counsel in my life who says, let me just remind you about what you care most about right now. Because I know your ambition is, you're getting angsty in the ambition side of it. But let me remind you of what you really care most about right now so that you can throttle yourself accordingly. So, man, that's valuable, right? Man, that's valuable. I think another reason why we don't have these relationships in our life is that we mistakenly think that our team is this wise counsel. And it is in part, right? Hopefully you have hired people that are smarter than you in different areas. Hopefully you've cultivated a team that is able to be honest with you, right? We need a high honesty culture among our teams. We need people who feel free to push back on you, push back on each other in a respectful way, all for the good of the company, right? So that takes leadership work to create that kind of team. And hopefully you have cultivated that kind of team. I always tell everyone on my team that feedback, honesty is my love language, and but then I have to walk that out, right? So when they say, I don't know if that's a good idea, Shay, I have to not fly off and be like, I'm the boss, do what I say. I have to walk the walk and not just talk the talk about honesty being my love language. But I think we think our team is wise counsel, and it is in part, but their job is to push back for what's best for the company. But what's best for the company is not always what's best for you or your family or your season of life. So we just have to keep that in mind when we're like, oh yeah, like my leadership team kind of functions as that. But there is a difference. There is a difference. The team is there to hopefully create what is best for the future of the company. And that's not the same as someone who knows what's going on beneath the surface when you're not in the office and understands that there are layers of things that make you who you are and that have to be considered in giving you counsel about any decision, right? Any decision. There are 3 basic things that are absolutely critical to business growth if you're a Christian entrepreneur. Number 1, you need the mentorship of high caliber women who are ahead of you in business. Number 2, you need mastermind level collaboration, strategic collaboration with other ambitious, values aligned peers. And you need the truth and the strategies and the spirit led insights that God has for you. If you don't have these 3 things in place, I just want to invite you to check out Illume Network. Illume is a faith-based entrepreneurial network for 6, 7, and 8-figure Christian female entrepreneurs who are looking for that kind of high-level mentorship, strategic collaboration with peers, and kingdom business strategy to guide their business growth. If you are building something meaningful and you're done doing it alone, I hope that you'll head to illumenetwork.com to learn more and consider applying, because this is the room that you have been looking for, and I would love to see you there. This is why Illume exists, right? This is why we do peer cohorts in Illume, because I think every entrepreneur needs mentors in their life, right? Every entrepreneur needs to be regularly with people who are ahead of them in business, who will inspire them, who will challenge them so that they can kind of listen to how they think and absorb some of their ethos about life and about business and how they've overcome challenges, their growth mindset, right? We all have to be around that. Women who help us to think bigger about what's possible. We all need mentorship, but then we also all need deep relationship with like-minded, values-aligned people who are at our level, who are in our season, who over time get to know you enough and get to know your family and your circumstances and the season of life that you're in, that they can function as a sort of board of advisors. That's why we have, those are 2 of the 4 different pillars of Illume, right? There's mentorship, but there's also peer support and accountability. There's that really has the opportunity to function. So context, everyone in Illume is put into a cohort with other people that are at their similar revenue and business level for exactly this reason, right? To give you the opportunity to cultivate relationship with a group of values-aligned women who can function as a board of advisors for you. So the invitation here for all of us is to develop a better business strategy around decision-making, right? Following the wisdom of Solomon and starting with identifying who in your life can serve as this sort of board of advisors, right? So the business strategy is this. I want you to identify 3 people that you trust, that you respect, who are wise in business and wise in life, who know you outside of work, right? So this isn't necessarily somebody on your team. They know you they have the context for your work, right? But they also know the context of your life. And I would challenge you to offer to be that for each other. And this is an important part. It has to be reciprocal, right? I get a lot of requests for mentorship. And mentorship is wonderful, but it's impossible for one person to divide themselves and mentor a lot of different people. None of us have that time to kind of scale mentorship. So ideally, it needs to be reciprocal, right? You need to be able to give as well as receive. So I would find people, and this is kind of, I go back to my example of Elise and myself. We have different strengths. And so find people that you're able to give as well as receive. Like I bring something to her life that's valuable to her, and she brings something to my life that's valuable to me. And so it's very equitable. It's a very equitable relationship. And that's the type of relationship you're looking for here in this board of advisors, is not just purely a mentor. And I want you to literally ask them to play that role in your life and offer to play that role in theirs, right? again, these are generally people at your same level of business. It needs to be people that have something that you can offer a value to them in return. But formalize it. DTR, right? Define that relationship. Ask them to do that. Set it up on your calendar. Set up a monthly or quarterly 60 to 90 minute call. If you have 3 people, maybe you make it 90 minutes once a month and give each person 30 minutes to get feedback on a decision. That's similar to what we do inside of Loom cohorts, but you can do that on your own, right? You can set a monthly or a quarterly call. My encouragement would be make it monthly. I don't think quarterly is quite enough time, but maybe it could be. Give it a try. And make a rule for yourself. And this is, I think, a little bit harder even. Make a rule for yourself that you're not going to make any major business decisions without getting feedback from your board of advisors. I think that's the hard internal part is, again, to all the points we mentioned earlier, we just want to keep going. We want to move quickly. We don't want to stop and slow down and get feedback. But my encouragement to you is to commit to yourself that you're not going to make any major business decisions without getting feedback from your board of advisors. And I mean, side note, just think about how powerful this could be in life. If you had people that you let into your life close enough that when you are going to buy a house, going to buy a car, considering sending your kids to private school, that they are allowed to weigh in on those decisions. They're brought into those big decisions as a board of advisors in life. Wow, that would be powerful. Right? We're willing to talk about so many things, but we're not often willing. We're willing to talk about a lot of things with our friends, right? A lot of even taboo topics, but we're not often willing to bring people into these bigger decisions that have much bigger implications. So that's my challenge for you is apply this in business, but also apply it in life. Or of course, join a community, right? If it's not a Loom, then make it some other community, but join a community like a Loom where you are going to be surrounded by this type of women who are all committed to facilitating this level of depth and collaboration. We do that within a monthly cohort setting, but there's plenty of different types of communities. So find your people, right? Find your people, but this is important. And we can avoid, back to what I was talking about at the top of the show, the hundreds of thousands of dollars of wasted money that potentially could have been avoided just by bringing outside advice into those decisions, an outside board of advisors. So I want to pray this over your business and over you as a leader. And then we'll close out. Lord, thank you so much that you save us into a body of believers. Right? This was never life or business. Neither was supposed to be isolated and individualistic, and it's up to me to figure it out. Like you saved us into a body. The Trinity, you exist in a community, right? Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. All of this just models for us that we are better together, that we go farther, faster together, that there is wisdom and safety when we do both life and business together. And so would you identify for each of us who those people are in our lives that we could ask to be on our board of advisors? And would you put it on their heart to be a longing for this same type of reciprocal relationship where iron can sharpen iron and we can really come together to help each other as business owners and leaders and in life? Lord, thank you that this is your design. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. And it's from you. So would you help us to just identify those people? Would you go before us into the hearts of those people, stir them up for this? And if we don't have those people, would you bring those people, Lord? Would you help us, show us creative ways that we can surround ourselves with people like that in our lives, Lord? Thank you for your genius business strategy. Of having a board of advisors. Would you help us to heed this advice, implement it in our businesses and our lives so that we can continue to do the good work that you're calling us into, Lord? I just pray blessing over every listener in the name of Jesus. All right. I'm so glad that you joined me. I hope that these podcasts have been encouraging for you. We drop them every Monday morning. 20 to 30 minutes. Listen to it on your way to work. Listen to it while you're dropping your kid off. Listen to it while you're doing your makeup in the morning. But start your week off with the Lord. Start your week off in business partnership with Him. And that's what this podcast is all about. And if this has been helpful, of course, as always, would you share it on social? There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there to reach who need partnership with the Lord and encouragement from Scripture, strategy from Scripture. And the only way that this is going to get to them is if you share it. So thank you in advance for doing that. Thank you for listening. And I will see you guys next week on our next episode of Better Way to Build.